Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're getting into something a lot of us are probably already thinking about: how to handle the financial side of Ramadan 2026. You know that feeling, right? You want to be generous, host big iftars, but then you see that grocery bill, and it just seems to climb higher and higher every single year.
So, if you're already feeling that financial squeeze heading into Ramadan, I promise you, you are not alone. It's a huge thing. And there are some very real kind of global economic forces at play that are making this holy month a real financial hurdle for so many of us.
Okay, so here's what's going on. We're in this weird period. Economists have a fancy term for it: precarious price stabilization. But really, what it means for you and me is this. Even though you hear on the news that inflation is cooling down, the prices for the specific things we buy for Ramadan, they're all over the place. The official numbers, honestly, they just don't match up with what we're actually seeing at the checkout.
But here's the thing. Feeling the pressure is one thing, but letting it take over your Ramadan is another. And we're not going to let that happen. There are some really clear, practical ways to take back control of your budget and, get back to what the month is really all about. So, you ready? Let's get into it.
All right, first up, the price squeeze of 2026. To get a handle on this, we've got to understand exactly what we're up against. Knowing where the price hikes are coming from, well, that's step one in protecting your wallet. And let's start with a big one: beef and veal. Staples for so many of those delicious iftar meals. Well, get this. The USDA is forecasting prices to jump by a whopping 9.4%. That's huge. It's because of stuff happening way up the supply chain, but the bottom line is, we're the ones who feel it at the dinner table. But it's not all bad news. On the complete flip side, there's a golden opportunity here. Look at eggs. Prices are expected to drop, not just a little, but by more than 22%. That is a massive saving, making eggs a total game changer for a protein-packed suhoor. This is where we can get smart. So, when you look at all these numbers together, you see what's really happening. It's a split market, right? Beef and sweets are going up, eggs are dropping like a rock, and poultry is kind of holding steady. This isn't just a boring chart of numbers. Think of it as your strategic shopping map for Ramadan.
Okay, so it's not just about what's happening in the global economy. A lot of the financial pressure, it actually comes from us. It's this weird paradox between what Ramadan is supposed to be and what it often becomes because of our own habits and, social expectations.
I mean, at its core, Ramadan is all about moderation and discipline, right? This verse from the Quran couldn't be clearer. Eat and drink, but do not waste by extravagance. It's a direct reminder that this month is about self-control, not just feasting. But, and this is a big but, our habits often tell a completely different story. And this chart just lays it all out. It's kind of shocking, actually. Look at this data from the UAE. The amount of food one person wastes per day, it literally doubles during Ramadan. Doubles. Think about that. We end up wasting more food during the one time of year we're supposed to be the most mindful.
And you know who knows this? The retailers. They get the psychology of a fasting shopper perfectly. They'll use tricks like health washing, slapping healthy labels on things that aren't, or those limited time offers that create a false sense of urgency. They know we're most likely to make impulse buys right before iftar, when we're hungry and tired. So the big question is, what do we do? How do we push back against these external pressures and, frankly, our own internal habits? Well, that's where the playbook comes in. Let's build a real actionable plan to take back our Ramadan. A fantastic place to start is with the classic 50-30-20 budget rule. But we're going to give it a Ramadan twist. The idea is to create a separate budget just for the month. So 50% goes to your absolute needs, groceries, bills. 30% is for the wants, things like gifts, big family gatherings. And a really important 20% is set aside for charity and savings, like Zakat and Sadaqah.
And putting this into action is all about practical steps. For example, calculate your Zakat way ahead of time, so it's not a surprise. Plan your shopping strategically. Maybe buy Eid clothes in the middle of the month when they're cheaper, not at the last-minute rush. And hey, get the whole family involved. It's a great way to teach everyone about financial responsibility. Okay, so beyond the budget itself, probably the single biggest place you can save money is in the kitchen. The goal is simple, but it is so powerful. Become a zero-waste kitchen. And the way to do that is with a solid meal plan. It's all about moving from just cooking way too much to being precise. Phase 1, plan. Actually count how many people are coming over. Phase 2, prep. Save your vegetable scraps for broth. And phase 3, serve. Use smaller plates. Seriously, it encourages people to take smaller portions. Following these steps can slash your food waste by as much as half. Now, this is my favorite part. This is where you get really creative. The trick is to stop thinking of leftovers as, well, leftovers. Think of them as meal prep for tomorrow's sahur. That leftover keema, that's the filling for stuffed parathas. The fruit chart that's a little mushy, blend it into a perfect smoothie bowl. It saves you so much time and money. It's a total win-win. And you know what's cool? It's 2026. We don't have to figure all this out on our own. We've got technology on our side, offering some amazing new tools that actually help us embrace these traditional values of being resourceful. I mean, there are AI-powered apps now that can literally scan what's in your fridge and pantry and create a meal plan for you designed to use up everything. And then there are community platforms and cool local things like the charity fridges in Dubai, which make it super easy to share any extra food you might have with people who really need it. But here's the most important part. All of this, the budgeting, the meal plans, the apps, it's not just about saving a few bucks. It all ties back to the core spiritual principles of Islam. This goes way deeper than just money. It's really about our faith. There's this key concept called Israf. It basically means extravagance or going overboard with things that are otherwise totally permissible. It's not about what you're using, it's about how much you're using and why. Wasting food, for instance, is seen as a kind of ingratitude for the blessings we have. And it's important to make a distinction here. This is different from another concept called tabdhir, which is about spending money on things that are forbidden, like gambling. Israf is about misusing the good, permissible things we've been given. And in a way, that's almost a trickier spiritual test, isn't it? So the bottom line is this. Managing your money and being mindful about what you consume, it's not just a financial strategy. It's a deeply spiritual act. You can think of your balanced budget, your zero-waste kitchen, as modern, totally practical ways of showing gratitude and exercising your faith. And that kind of reframes the whole thing, doesn't it? It leaves us with a pretty powerful question to think about. Could managing our budget mindfully actually be one of the most meaningful acts of devotion we perform this year? Could it be the very thing that brings us closer to the true spirit of Ramadan?